Hello friends and welcome back. Today I'm going to be making a garden journal and I'm going to sew in my signatures. I'm going to show you how to do it. This is my third project for Country Craft Creations, my design team project, and I am using the Graphics 45 Bloom collection. So first of all, let me apologize for my voice because I think I'm losing it a little bit, so if it kind of gets cracked, I apologize. Here is a kind of an overview of everything that we're going to be using. The only thing I can say that's really important is that the thread that you use is strong thread. You're going to need a pokey tool, you're going to need your decorations, your chipboard, some strong adhesive, which I'm using score tape. I also made my signatures out of just the standard 8.5 by 11, but this is the 65-pound weight smooth white. And I just cut them in half and then scored them in half again. So they're basically like A2 card size is what you'll end up with. Each one of my signatures has 4 pages in it, and then once you've scored them and folded them, that makes 8-page signatures times 5. So there's 5 of them. I'm also going to use a little bit of Tyvek. Here is the cutting guide for the chipboard and the pattern paper, and we're just going to get started right now with your chipboard pieces and your biggest of the pattern paper that was on the cutting guide. This is what I'm going to be using for the front of my book. So I'm going to flip it over and we're going to place our chipboard pieces on the inside of the cover. I'm just going to kind of line them up as best I can, centering them, and make sure that your spine has just a tiny little sliver of space in between each piece of chipboard. And that just allows your book to close and open without stressing it. You don't want anything to crack or rip. So you want to just make sure you leave just a little gap in between. If you have a quarter, you can just stick a quarter in there or a dime or however, and that'll help you if you're worried about not making enough space. I've made so many of these, I just eyeball everything, but if you want to measure it out and be precise, you can definitely do that. You just want to make sure it's centered. Each one of these corners needs to come off, so I just take my ruler and a pencil, and I just kind of, I make a lot of these, so I just eyeball it, and I'm just going to make a line and cut each one of my corners off. There is a tool available that you can get that will do this for you perfectly every time. I don't have that tool, and I don't think it's necessary, but if you want it, I will try to look for it for you and link it below. So I'm just going to trim off all my corners here, and now I'm going to take my score tape. Well, first I'm going to kind of mess with it because I want to make sure that it's going to open and close well before I start really adhering stuff down to where it's not, I can't fix it. So everything is good. I have enough space in between, and now I'm going to add score tape all the way around. And I'm just going to take my bone folder after I put my score tape down, and I'm just going to burnish down each piece of tape to make sure that there's no lifting. And I'm going to do the same thing after I've pulled over each one of my edges. I'm going to burnish it down again to make sure again that there's no lifting. And right now I'm just basically training the paper. This is where we want to go, so I'm already going to start folding you over so you know where to go when I take the tape off. Next I'm going to pull off the backing, and then I splay my fingers out and pull it over. And this just takes a little bit of practice. The bigger the book, the harder it is. And basically if I do it this way because then I don't get bubbles ever. If I bring it over just a little piece at a time, and I end up with bubbles and then I'm pulling it up and I'm frustrated. So this is just my way of making sure that it lays down flat. Now I'm just going to go around and burnish the whole thing again. Make sure nothing's going to lift. Kind of work those edges again, make sure that it opens and closes without any stress. You can decorate the spine now. This would be a good time if you want to put any holes in there, if you want to put any eyelets and do anything like that. This would be a good time for it before we add the signatures with the spine. So here's my signatures. Like I said, these are basically A2 size cards. And I've already made my template and cut out my piece that I'm going to be using as my spine, which is 3 by 6. But I'm going to show you on another one. I'm going to make another one and show you the same thing. So like I said, this is 3 by 6, and I'm going to need to, first, you're going to want to score ahead of time. So I'm going to take this away because I just realized I hadn't scored it yet, and we're going to score 1/2 inch on either side. So 1/2 inch flip, another 1/2 inch. And now I'm going to take it, and because this is just a template and not my actual spine, I'm going to fold it in half to find the center just in case it's a little bit off. Now I know exactly where the center is. And then I'm going to line up my ruler, and the center is at 3 because it's 6 inches. I'm going to make a mark at 3, and then I'm going to go 2 inches on either side of the center. So because this spine is only 6 inches long and 3 inches wide, we can only fit 5 signatures in here, and I'll show you why, and we only want 3 holes for each signature. We don't want any more than that because the spine is too small for that. So I'm just going to make my marks all the way across, and this is just so that I can make my lines straight. My T-square ruler walked away. I don't know where it is, so I got to do it this way. And since you can't really see my score lines very well, I'm going to put some pencil lines so you can see here. So this is 1.5 inches, because remember we scored at 1/2 inch on either side. We're going to find the center, just 3/4 inch, and then we're going to move over 1/4 inch from the center on either side. And because we have 5 signatures, we want to make sure we have 5 1/4 inch marks. So 3/4 and then 1/4 inch on either side. And that will give you 5 lines. And right now I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to draw in between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's where all 5 of your signatures are going to sit, right on those lines. And now here's where your holes are. So we're going to go across. Make sure that they're straight. That way you don't end up with funny things. And then each one of these little crosshairs, get rid of my extra little dots here. Each one of these little crosshairs is where you're going to score. I mean, not score, poke. You're going to use your pokey tool, and this is where your holes are going to be for sewing in your signatures. So now you keep that. Keep it, and then whenever you make one of these, you've already got the hard part's done. So now I'm going to take my spine is already behind there. The piece that I'm using is a nice green piece, and I'm just going to use my pokey tool and a little piece of foam, and I'm going to poke each one of the little pencil marks that I made where the crosshairs are. And that's it. Now I'm going to take my little template off. I also have another template, which is not necessary with smaller ones, but I made it anyway just to show you what I was doing. Back out a little bit. So this should be, so correction for you, it's 2 inches by 5.5, not by 6. I did mine by 6 because I wasn't thinking, I don't know what I was doing. Then you're going to fold it in half, do the same thing, find the center, and go out 2 inches on either side, so it will match the holes on your spine. If you do it at 5.5, you'll be able to line it up perfectly. I have to kind of hope that I get it in the middle because mine is 1/2 inch too long. So you'll see here when I'm looking at it, I'm like, hey, what did I do? Messed up. So I'm just going to take my spongy thing behind it, my pokey tool, and my signature, center of my signatures, and just poke right through. I'm going to do that to all 5, and then set them off on the edge there. Do it one more time with you, and then I'll just skip past the rest of it, so you don't need to, probably don't want to sit here and watch me do it all 5 times. So all 3 holes, same spot for each one. And then once all 5 of them are completed, then we're going to add some Tyvek. And, oh wait, first I'm going to make these pretty. So you can do your spine inside or outside of your cover paper that's on the inside of your book. I'm going to do mine on the outside, so I wanted to make my little edges pretty. On the back of this, you want to put the piece of Tyvek. Now this isn't necessary, this is a smaller book, these pages aren't super heavy, but generally when you try to sew paper, it's real easy to rip it when you add any tension to it. So the way that I get around that is to add a piece of Tyvek just to that center part where you're going to sew. You're not going to see it, it's going to be completely covered, but what it does is just adds that little bit of strength to the back, so that if for some reason one of the signatures snags on something or somebody pulls on it, it doesn't just rip your spine in half. And now I'm just going to poke through my same holes, just to poke through the Tyvek, just to make it easier for me when I sew. Now each one of these is going to sew right like this, so your 3 holes should line up with your 3 holes in your spine. You can start front to back or back to front, but either way you want to go in line. So I'm going to start from the back. I'm going to clip my edges, I'm going to put so this time it's going to be kind of fast because this one wasn't as easy to see as the next one. So I just kind of sped this up, but I left it in so you could kind of get an idea of what we're doing. And then the next one that I sew in is at normal speed, so you will see it much easier. So I'm just going to kind of let this go just so you can see how it is. And like I said, you're either going to start back and then do it in line to the front, or front, do it in line to the back. Either way, you want to do each one in succession to the last one. That way you don't cross over any of your holes. And you'll see as you're turning it around and looking at it, it looks really nice. So this particular way of sewing in has been around forever. People have been doing this for a long time. You can either do it inside or outside the spine too. So if you wanted to, say, decorate the spine of your book, the outside spine of your book, you could run this along the outside as well and make a real pretty design back there. You could bead it. You could do all kinds of stuff to make it real pretty on the outside if you wanted to. Personally, I didn't want to do that to this because I have something else on the outside that I'm going to do, so I didn't want to run this through all the way through to the back of the book. I decided to keep it all hidden on the inside. So now for the second signature, slow it down so you can see better, and I will talk you through it completely. So we're going to go in the middle hole, and then just kind of grab the tail with your thumb, take your spine, run your needle through the middle hole of where this signature is going to lie, which is with the very next set of holes from the last one. Come up through that, see that second hole right there? So this is the top. We're going to come in the top, go in the top hole of the signature. Now we're going to go all the way down to the bottom hole, run through that same hole that lines up with that one in the same row to the bottom. You want to leave your string kind of loose. Don't want to make it too tight because you're going to have to move things back and forth in order to line them up, but sometimes your needle and your pages aren't always going to line up exactly, and so you kind of got to fiddle with it a little bit. So you can see here that I've just put it through the spine, but not the signature yet, and now I'm going to grab onto my tail again, pull the book away from the spine, and then go through that middle hole, make sure nothing's caught. Now you can tighten it up because now you're done. So you want to tighten it up. You're going to put one side of the string on either side of the long one that runs down the middle, and then just going to triple knot. So you just triple knot it right here, nice and tight. Don't cut your finger off like I almost did. I'm going to do that 3 times, and then I'm going to cut my tails. I don't cut them completely off. I don't know, I always feel like if something pulls a little bit, I don't want to just come undone, so I leave a little tail on either side, and I think it looks nice too. I think it looks cool when you open it up and you see that little hand sewn in stuff. And that's it. So we're going to do 3 more of those. I will do that off camera, so you guys can go practice yours, and I'll get mine all done. And here it is, all finished and ready to go. And on the back of my spine, I covered it with score tape because I want to make sure that it's not going to move once I place it down, so I've got it completely covered with score tape. Now these pages here are what are going to line the inside of your book. So I use score tape around the edges so that way nothing lifts, and I'm just going to use my ATG gun in the middle. And I'm just going to line it up on the inside covers. Now at this point, if you would rather have the spine behind it, you would put the spine down first, then those covers. I wanted it the other way because I wanted to be able to see. I like the colors and doing it this way, but you don't have to. You can totally cover this up if you don't like it. So I'm just going to line it up in the middle as best you can, and then just stick it down on the sides. Now the other thing that you want to do is kind of play with, because you're going to need to kind of crease. You'll see when I open it up right there. You're going to want to crease down gently because you don't want to rip that, just to kind of give it some score lines right there to make sure that it will open and close without problems. And there it is. That's it. It's super easy. Because I got tons of, not tons, I've got like 3 other videos from years back where I can show you how to do this, also using an old book. So if you've got some old books with some really neat covers that you want to salvage, that's how you would salvage them. So now we're going to start decorating. I took some of the ribbon that came in my little kit, and I'm going to just tie, and this this looks like a hot mess when I'm doing it, but when it's finished it looks awesome. So what I should have done was crinkle my ribbon before, but I wasn't sure how much ribbon I was going to use and I didn't want to crinkle all of it. So I decided, okay, well, I'll tie this on here first, make my little knot at the top, and then I decided that's not enough ribbon. I want more. So now I'm going to tie the rest of the ribbon kind of above the knot. I'm going to make another knot right above that little mess right there. And then once I made the other knot and it was sitting there I don't like this, I want a bow. So I went back and I took those same pieces and I just made a bow. So once the bow is all put together, hopefully I don't make you sit through this whole fussying with it, because I fussied with it for a long time. I also have a charm with a little white bow, and it's got a little jump ring on it, and I kind of fed the jump ring through the bow. So you can't see it where it is, so it's pretty well hidden, but it holds that charm right there in the middle of that bow perfectly. Now I'm going to take each one of my little ends here, and now I'm going to crinkle them. So I just put a little bit of water in my hands, and now I'm going to crinkle them up, and I'm going to take those clips, and I'm going to clip it. And I'm just going to leave it like that while I'm decorating in the hopes that these ends will crinkle up nicely, which they did. It came out really, I love the way it came out, but it would have been a lot easier if I had crinkled before I did this, but when do I ever do anything the easy way? So now I'm going to decorate the front. I've got another piece of that corrugated. I thought I was going to rip it at first, but then I decided to take my distressor and just go around the edges, which you really can't tell from this angle, but you can when you look at it in person. And then I'm just going to start kind of putting down my layers, because if you know me, you know I love my layers. I don't like things to be flat. So this is layer number 1, and I wanted to have some of that like earthy kind of feel to it, so that's why I picked the corrugated chipboard behind it. I thought that went really well with this kit, and that's why I think I used it on almost every single one of my projects. Now I'm just lining up my cards. I decided to tape them together before I glued it, just so that nothing shifted while I was trying to glue it together and then ended up out of place. So I'm just gonna put some glue down a couple times because I realized I missed half of it. And then art glitter glue, if you're not familiar with it, this stuff is fabulous, but it does take a second to get tacky. So you want to kind of hold it for a few seconds. Once it gets tacky and it attaches though, it's not going anywhere. I made a tag using this cute little tag die that I had in my stash, and I'm going to take the lovely sticker, I'm going to pop it up on some foam tape and place it across the tag. And then I'm also going to pop up the tag, so there's even more dimension. But before I do that, I'm going to add another little piece of, this one's already crinkled, and I thread a key through it, a little antique key. Place that on the cover. And then I've got these little birds that I pulled out of my stash. I pulled out a bunch of stuff. Basically went shopping in my room to see what went with this kit. I've also got this butterfly that's kind of, I don't think you can see it very well, but it's sparkly. And it's really, really, really pretty, three-dimensional butterfly. I've also got this little bird, chipboard bird. And he has some sticky paper on the back, so he's super easy to put down. And that's pretty much going to do it for the cover. I thought about doing some other stuff, thought about adding some charms, some little trinkets, thought about pearls, but ended up stopping right here. And now when we come back, we're going to start working on the inside of the book. So we've got some pockets that I'm going to put on either side of the insides, and I'm going to use the cut aparts to make the pockets. So this one I already made, and I took one of the stickers and I added it right to the middle. I'm also going to pop up, I'm going to put one flat and pop up the other one of the stamps, and those came off of one of the sheets that I just cut the stamps down off of one of the sheets. So that one's popped up. I've also got a couple of wooden flowers that I'm going to place. I'm just going to glue those down just to kind of give it some interest in the front. And then we have our pocket on the front. My idea for these journals was to keep them super simple because I wanted whoever I give these journals to be able to have a place to write or draw or poetry or journal about something. They could put pictures, they could do whatever they want with it, whatever makes their heart happy. But I didn't want to take away their pages. So I decided to just put some simple pockets on the front, to the front and back covers, and then do a little bit of decorating on the front of each one of the signatures, and then that's it. The rest of it will be blank so that they can do whatever they like to it. So I took one of these, flipped it to the side that I thought would look nice as a pocket, and then I did my little tick marks, because these are not, these come a specific size. You can't cut it down until you figure out where it's going to fit on your cover. So I made some little tick marks to see how big of a pocket I wanted to make. And then I scored it right on those tick marks. And then I kind of trimmed down the score lines so I didn't have some great big um, pieces hanging over. I didn't want to have it too wide of hinges. And then I'm just doing what I do with every pocket, which is just kind of cleaning up the edges so that nothing is hanging, too thick or hanging over to where you can see it. And I'm just going to add my ATG gun to the back of my pocket. And I'm just going to add it to the bottom of the back page, the back cover, I should say. Now, when I was shopping my stash, I found some other wooden pieces that I had gotten quite some time ago, and I have this big old wooden butterfly, and I thought, well, he'd look really cool. So I'm going to glue down the wooden butterfly, and I'm going to do another stamp that I popped up, and then I have some really pale pink pearls that I'm going to pull. Let me say that, pale pink pearls. I'm going to pull out from my stash, and I'm going to put one in the center of the wood flower on the front, add a few to this back page here. Just a few. And that's it. See here, the crinkling came out really nice. Looks really good. I've got 5 signatures in here, so I decided on each one of those I wanted to place something. Now I can do pattern paper and just do a strip on the pages if I wanted to, but I decided that each one of these signatures is going to be started with a beautiful picture. So I had a couple pieces left over from the Secret Garden collection that I loved and I really wanted to put. They go pretty well with this collection. And of course the little girl with the daisies was going to go right in the front because I think she's absolutely adorable. And then each one of the signatures I'm just going to take a piece from my little stash right here and I'm going to place one on each first page of all 5 of these sections. And that's going to do it. That's pretty much going to be all there is to this book for me because I'm going to not go crazy like I usually do decorating. I'm going to keep it simple. I actually have somebody in mind that I'm giving this to, and I know exactly what they're going to do with it. So I'm giving them plenty of space to do what they want with it. But I did want to decorate at least one of each of the little sections. Use that other last of my little secret garden. This is my last little secret garden piece right there. It's going in this journal. I have hoarded that forever. I have a whole little section in my craft room that is all Graphics 45, and I'm very much a hoarder. I mean, every little scrap, every little extra piece is all neatly packed away where I can pull it out anytime I want to, and it's really nice when they come out with collections that you can kind of mix and match. Then I get to use all those little pieces that I saved. And then I don't feel like I'm such a hoarder, but I actually had a purpose for keeping all that stuff. So here's a quick look through the book. All of the sections have a little picture on the front, and that's going to do it. I'll leave you with some close-ups, and I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I hope this gives you some ideas on some really cool gifts that you can give. Be starting my next project here. Actually, I've already started it with the Prima paper. And thanks again. I will see you again real soon. Have a great week. Bye-bye.